Good evening. Welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at DiabloInkGamers.com. I am your host, Flux, and I'm joined on the show by Nerdwords.
Hello.
And by Rankil, who's hopefully going to die in a Greater Rift any minute now.
Greetings. No, I'm done with it, so I survived.
Not too bad. Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. So we are talking about, it seems like it's been a while since the patch came out, but somehow it's only been like 5 days, because we did the last podcast right before the last patch came out, the 2.11, and obviously that made some big changes to a lot of things. Certainly enchanting, not enchanting, gambling, and the Beam of Disappointment changed slightly, and there's a shortage of yellow mats now, and treasure goblins to do new stuff, and they did a bunch of changes to the Realm of Trials, which both these guys have been doing some high-level stuff, if they're going to talk about that. And they did a bunch of Witch Doctor changes, but I don't think anybody who volunteered to be on the show has played a Witch Doctor in like a year and a half, so...
I could get
Did you guys played a Witch Doctor lately?
I played a Witch Doctor on PTR, but I played a little bit on mine just to see the changes, so...
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about the changes like 2 days ago.
No, yeah.
So.
I played with it on my non-season one that I had, but...
Okay, that doesn't count. If it's not seasons, it's crap. Not seasons.
Yeah, I haven't touched it at all since the patch.
Okay, so maybe Rank will have a few thoughts on that, but obviously they did a bunch of buffs to Witch Doctor pets that had been long requested by Witch Doctors, and apparently that's helped from what I've seen, but I haven't talked to anybody who's really played it in depth, and we're not going to change that fact tonight, apparently. But maybe soon. So both Witch Doctors out there, I'm sorry, but you already know you're awesome now, so you don't need our reinforcement of that. And we're also going to do some recent play story stuff, not a huge amount of news lately, and what you guys have been getting into, and Realm of Trialing, obviously. Let's do some of the small stuff and then build up to the Realm of Trials thing. So just sort of the quick hitters. The Beam of Disappointment is now a Clang of Disappointment. Do you guys think that's a feeture or a bug? Did they forget to take out the sound effect or what?
Don't forget the star on the map, too. I think that's still there.
But I want the star on the map. People just don't want the people are complaining anyway. I should clarify. With the keystone, the Rift Trial keystone that drops when you kill a normal Rift Guardian above Torment 1, they have a chance to drop, and that's what you use to go to the Realm of Trials, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And it used to drop like a normal legendary with the whole Beam of Light and the Clang, and people were calling it the Beam of Disappointment because you'd think you'd had a real legendary, and it was just another one of these keystones. And if you're doing a lot of rifts on above, I don't know what, T3, T4, you start to get those really often. I think, is it 100% on T6? It's a lot.
It feels
anyway.
pretty close to that. I can't remember the last rift I did where I didn't get one, and I'm running T6 pretty regularly.
So how many of those do you have? Like 100 stacked up now?
I think I've got 78 or 80, but I've been doing a lot of Greater Rifts lately.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been burning them all in Greater Rift.
Yeah.
Because when you start trying to upgrade your legendary gems, you can go through them really quickly if you're just doing one and done on Rifts.
No, absolutely,
you know?
yeah.
But anyway, the whole point was that it used to do a beam and a clang, and people were like, it shouldn't do a beam and a clang, it's distracting, you think it's a real legendary item, you think you finally found Ice Climbers or TNT or something, and you don't. And then I think it was Travis Day had made a forum post a few weeks ago saying, we'll take that in a future patch. And they took out the beam, but they left the clang. So if you have the sound on, you hear clang, which is the one exciting sound, right, when the Rift Guardian dies.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh boy, and you can't tell what it is in this huge pile of crap, and you start clicking through all the garbage, trying to find a pony at the bottom somewhere. And it's another goddamn realm key. So is this an accident? Did they forget to turn off the clang, or did they meant to, or does anyone care about me?
I would love to be a developer and troll people by doing that and just keeping it in there and being like, oops, we forgot, just so they can see the people on the internet just crying over things. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, it's probably something they overlooked, but I mean, there's plenty of things that they overlook a lot of times that seem pretty obvious. But I mean, we can put on some tinfoil hats, I guess, and start discussing how it affects the loot tables and something else, I think.
Yeah, I mean...
And if you drop your tinfoil hat, you know what sound it makes?
Clang.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I ran a couple Realm of Trials, and I was doing public games too right before that just to get a couple keystones to run. Because even though I have a bunch of keys, I level like 5 to 10 up at a time and like let them all sit at like 30 because... Well, we'll get to that later, but every time it dropped, I was like excited that there was no beam still, but that clang, yeah, it was definitely still the clang of disappointment. So I don't know. I mean, it's probably like a minor complaint, but it'd be nice if it dropped the way that key. I mean, or at least make it like, I don't know, across the board. Like it should do the same for the keys when you kill key wardens or something at least, and that way it felt consistent. But it does feel like it was kind of an afterthought. They just forgot about it.
Well, we know it was kind of a last-minute addition, and probably just they didn't turn off the sound, or who knows. I bet they'll fix that. They'll take out the sound in the future. But the treasure goblin portals now, they're sort of their resting state. They're sending their extra little portal to Greed's domain, and when they die, they open up another one. And if you kill them with a ranged character, it'll stay open until you get really close to it, pick up the loot, and then it closes again. which seems pretty cool. I mean, obviously it kind of ties into the whole lore of, and accidentally one of them stays open when they die once in a while.
Yeah, I really like that change a lot. It's one, it's made it more kind of like enticing and exciting when you see it, but two, it's also makes the goblins way more apparent because there's, I mean, I'm sure everyone's had that problem where you're busting through a rift super fast and you pop a goblin, don't even realize it till it's almost too late, and you're like rushing to grab him real quick. So now it's like I see that giant portal just hanging out, and I'm like, oh, ooh, there we go.
Or you go like 3 rooms deep from where you were, and you see this little trail of like 2 gold, 5 gold, whatever, and you're
And
like,
you're
"Where
like,
does this gold come from?" And then you're like, "Oh
oh
crap!"
yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah, I miss them all the time still. I mean, I just won't even notice it. You know, in the spam of combat, you know, you're activating like 5 bosses in a rapid sequence. I don't notice another one says Treasure Goblin activated,
Yeah.
and you'll find that trail of gold leading off somewhere in the after the battle. You're like, oh crap.
I think it'd be
But
cool if they gave treasure goblins a slightly different noise from elite packs. I mean, I'm sure that's not too complicated to do, but it would make it, I don't know, a little bit different because, like, yeah, it's the same noise when you start a boss fight and end a boss fight and get a treasure goblin and end a treasure goblin.
They should
So
make it
it's
the
like,
same noise as a legendary drop noise,
just, just
just to
make it,
troll everybody.
just make
and
it so much
they
troll.
could make a series of beams as they ran along too.
Yeah. Oh God, that'd be so rude.
I did get one actually just recently. One of them dropped a legendary while I was chasing it, so there was a beam and a clang, but it was actually a legendary. It was a belt or something like
It
that.
was just a distraction to make you stop chasing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't got anything good from a goblin in forever. Then I remembered I just got a legendary just a couple days ago. But I also was wondering, I had not seen one of those big packs of them where you get 8 or 10 or 12 at once in a Nephilim Rift in forever, and I was wondering if it had been taken out in a patch. And into have you guys seen those since then?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw them
Yeah.
today, especially with because they put like a mini map little dot for all of them on there too, I think. And so
Yeah,
when you're
it
doing
does.
that, you kind of come around and you look on the mini map, and then you just see all these dots on there. You kind of freak out a little bit more because you're just like going, "Whoa, everybody stop!" And then it's the 3, 2, 1, and then chickens with their heads cut off as everything
Yeah.
just goes everywhere.
Yeah, a couple days into the season, we actually, it was when the buff was still up, and it was a double pack, so it
Oh
was
wow.
very nice. I still think, I mean, we were like really low, like lowly geared, and we were running like T2, T3, so it was a couple got, actually more than a couple got away, but I mean, it was still pretty epic.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it forever, and then I asked people about that, and the next day I saw some with my demon hunter who had just gotten into M6, so she was running along on like T4 and I was playing all the different variety of skills and trying out different stuff, and it was like goblins, goblins, all excited, and I got disconnected right
Ah,
in the middle of
bummer.
it. I have a screenshot of me, in the character screen with the disconnect box in the middle of the screen,
Oh
and on
man.
the left you can see the text. It says, has engaged a treasure goblin, like 12 of them in a row,
Oh man.
and you can see what my last text message is. I didn't get disconnected from being it, just I lost the game. But I was like, oh, that sucked. And then I got one like a day later, but playing a new character. So I'm looking at screenshots of it right now. Level 40 monk, and he got those.
Oh man.
So obviously nothing worth saving for crap. But since I'm the only person left alive who actually levels up new characters, apparently, as you guys were talking about your 45-minute demon hunters.
Yeah, something like
But
that.
we'll get into
That's
that
that's
later.
the current record for me at least.
Current record.
That seems to be about the average about an hour. It seems like if you can find the cursed chest, in Act One often, you can do it really really fast.
Yeah.
And people who do it softcore don't even care about that. You just join your friend's T6 game and run around behind them, and if you die, so what? The only problem with dying is you're not getting experience while you wait to resurrect. But it's a little more of an art to it in hardcore because death,
Because death.
as always. One other buff, and one other of the undocumented buffs was Sentries, the Demon Hunter skill, which you can have lots of if you have various items that boost it, and if you have the broader set, your sentries then cast all your hatred spenders. Except that, of course, that's a lie because they still do it with Crider Shot, even if you have that with elemental arrows. We discussed last podcast because M6 gets all the boost. But it's nice that they finally put a buff in for that. A little used gear set and spec that really is pretty underpowered.
Yeah.
So it's nice that finally the M6 Demon Hunter's got a nice little buff undocumented. Will you guys appreciate that one?
I
Uh,
do now that I play one, but
I don't play a demon hunter, so it doesn't really affect me at all. I mean, it's nice when I'm trying to get my Greater Rift keys,
Yeah.
but aside from that,
Yeah, having recently started doing the M6, I just got the gear a few days ago, and then I started playing a monk for some reason, a level 1 monk. But it's like the whole thing with the changes with the Greater Rifts, it's like, with the Realm of Trials. If there's anything in the game better designed for Realm of Trials than having 5 sentries at once, I can't think what it is. And I also can't think what they could design that would be better for 5 sentries than the way the Realm of Trials works now.
Witch doctors
It's
are
like the first.
close, but yeah, not as good as. It's about that like the ramp up, from like having pets or something else, and like the whole disadvantage of the ramp up is completely null and void in there when everything just comes to you.
And yeah, and it gives you time between them to get your sentries up. The very first one I did, I was doing T2 with this character when I just got the year. I had nothing optimized for sentry. I had all my skills were boosting the other things I've been using previously. My items were boosting my other skills, and I just did the first riff. And I said, well, just see how high I can get in this wave of trials here. God, I can't talk tonight. Realm of trials, and just started dropping out sentries and doing it. And suddenly I'm on wave 28, and I'm like, okay, this is like T6, and I've been doing T2. I'm gonna get fucking one shotted here,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I had to run. I almost did get one shotted by some electro. Those guys in Act 5 who cast like the lightning bolts that are like double hand lightning bolt things that don't have that
Yes.
much range. One of those started zapping me, and suddenly I was at like 50k hit points, and I was like, okay, running, smoke screen, hide in the corner.
Those dudes hurt, man. They
Yeah,
always
especially
hurt.
when you're 4.5 difficulties above what you've been
Yeah.
playing. But yeah, yeah. So wave of if you're new with a Marauder set in in the realm of trials, be careful because you can get way over your head really
Yeah,
quickly
definitely check yourself before you wreck yourself.
before they wreck you. And so gambling. Before we get to the whole Realm of Trials thing and recent play stuff, which you guys are going to be mostly doing talking, and I can stop misspeaking myself. I did it again. So gambling was a big change. They greatly increased 5 times the cost for everything for blood shards, and there are a number of side effects from that. But they also boost the drop rate of legendaries. So just on the larger scheme of how has it worked for you so far, Rankil? Are you finding a lot more legendaries? Do you like the price increase?
I mean, the numbers of it say what was it, 33% more of what you get, but it's kind of like I don't know. The way I look at it is since you're getting less of them, it's kind of the same thing of where you see people when they go to the gas station and they're buying the scratch off tickets, they're not buying like one, they're buying like half a roll of them or something like that, and like running their quarters all over the people who are really addicted to it. So it's the same thing even like people like old grandmas playing bingo. They're not playing with one bingo card, they're playing with 20 bingo cards because it kind of like the more chances you have, it feels like you have a better chance at it, but like you have kind of the disappointment of I guess if you do gamble for like 5 things as opposed to before, which would have been 25 things, the 5 things that don't return anything, you're kind of like all sad and whatever. But at least in those like 25 that maybe you gambled before, like you didn't care because you were just spamming and filling your inventory. So I think like the disappointment is worse, but I mean, in reality, you get more items, but it just kind of it's a weird disconnect for it. I could see how people would complain about it, but I mean, they say it's 33% better. So if we're getting 33% more based off of the amounts that were the blood shards that we're gaining, which they did do a hotfix that buffed up Greater Rift blood shard drops too. So those are more, they're actually better than the respective equal torment or whatever equal difficulties. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, in a way, see more, I guess, on it is, but it seems
So are
like
you getting more legendaries or not?
I'm getting more of the ones that I don't want.
Have you profited from this change?
Maybe I don't know.
Okay. How about you, Nerdward?
I have not.
What's your overall and are you
Well,
profiting?
the first day it came out, I always keep. Gambling's always been one of those things that I don't try to get too excited about. Same with D2. It was one of those things where like if you got some extra stuff to shell out, then do it. But I wait till I get almost to cap like 400, 450 before I spend anything, and I usually only spend like a little bit of it and just keep it capped out because don't care. But
But you're doing like T6 rifts. You can like 100 at a
it
time
stays
though.
full all the time. Yeah, basically I go in, I run a
It's
game.
like it's like driving a Hyundai.
Well, I stay, yeah, like I'll get to 500, gamble it down to about 400, do a game, gamble it down to 400, do a game. So I'm gambling every game at least a little bit. At least I was. Now I'm not at all. It's I don't know. When I first started doing it, I'm in a really weird gear spot. So like, and this is obviously completely anecdotal evidence, but I really only need to replace my amulet and one of my rings. I've got really great sets everywhere else. I'm like, it's going to be like the bare minimum of been maxing stats here and there on my actual gear. So it's all jewelry I need. And now like it's 100 shards for an amulet and 50 for a ring. So at most you can gamble 5 amulets and 10 rings. Now, when I did I did 500 shards, gambled amulets like the first as soon as the patch went live, and I got 2 legendaries out of it, which was awesome. They were shit, but it was awesome. And then I did rings. I've been doing rings since then. I've gambled probably about 3,000 shards, and I've got nothing at all. And that's a bummer. When you only are able to gamble 10 things basically because I'm spending things on the most expensive pieces, and you get nothing for like that long of a time, it can be kind of disheartening. But RNG being what it is, I try not to look too much into it. It's gambling anyways. It's kind of more a consolation prize. I just I'm kind of with Rankil. It kind of felt better gambling a bunch of things, but I believe that's more a psychological. It was better. I don't really think that that's the case.
Well, that was his whole point. It's fun to do. You get to do so many at once. You feel like you have better chances of getting it.
Right. But
And
it's
especially if you're doing amulets. I mean, that was like the joke. Like for a casual, you play all week and you can gamble one amulet. It's like woo.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'm in that one of those spots right now that like the biggest upgrades I need are those spots, and all my other pieces. Like even if I did get an upgrade, it wouldn't really raise my DPS or toughness enough to be worth gambling 500 shards for it. So it's like I don't want to be gambling amulets and rings, but I can't farm a Unity really any other way. So I'm just trying to focus on that right now.
I've liked it a lot actually. I didn't think I would like it so much. I liked the idea of having more gambles at once, but I had horrible luck gambling. I mean, I would routinely do 300, 400 shards, which was like 8 trips to Griswold.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus, God, I got to salvage again, which is another issue. We'll get into that in a minute. The whole salvaging and the lack of yellow materials now. But it seems like I get like 20%, 15% legendaries now. I was doing gloves the other day. I mean, that's how I got. I think 2 out of the 5 items I have a Marauder set are from gambling.
Oh wow.
Because armor is cheap. You can gamble armor really effectively.
Yeah, and I probably
And
should
then
do that.
after I already had the Marauders gloves, I was trying to gamble better ones, or else looking for long-term, looking for Tasker and Theo, right?
Mm-hmm.
For my Sentry thing. And at one point gambling, I just started doing them. I just click the button really fast until my shards are gone. Usually, I don't control it in measured doses like your carefully measured heroin addiction there. I just click it until it's gone. Until I click it till it dies, and then I do more. And I'm doing that, and it's like ding, 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 and I look, and I got 4 legendaries out of 5 gloves at one point.
That's awesome.
And they were all sets, and they alternated. I went Shadows, Marauders, Rare, Shadows, Marauders, Rare, Rare, Rares again.
Oh wow.
So it was just this weird luck of getting 4 green things in 5 rolls. And of course, then I gambled 12 more after that, and they were all garbage. And all just rares. But if I had stopped, then I could have been like, wow, best conversion rate ever.
Yeah.
And one of the gloves wasn't actually probably an upgrade. It was a considerable upgrade over what I had. So.
Yeah, I know.
But not a TNT.
I think.
But that's obviously anecdotal,
Right, exactly. And I think that right now, especially as early as the patch, I mean, the patch just came out a couple days ago, so it's going to be all anecdotal right now. But it felt really great when I gambled 5 amulets and got 2 legendaries. Even though they were crap, I was like, wow, that's awesome. But since then, it's felt pretty disheartening. So again, it goes the same. I feel like with drops, like if you're getting good drops, it feels good. If you're getting crap drops, it feels like crap. And right now, I'm in a drought, so.
And I wonder how the whole, like Rankil was just saying, if you could do 100 of them instead of 10, does it feel really different?
Yeah, see, that's something I really wish they would do. I mean, I don't really know. I get gating the amount of shards you can carry to a point, but I feel like 500.
I don't get that at all. I think it's stupid.
I mean,
at least 1,000, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you make it to where you can have as many as you want, then people wouldn't even use it. There's people that wouldn't even
Well,
care,
you sure
I guess.
wouldn't. How many would you have if you didn't have to use them?
I think I would still use them pretty. I mean,
I probably wouldn't use them as much because I think,
Yeah.
like you're saying, I was at the same point where only like rings and amulets and weapons, and they're
Yeah.
so expensive to gamble for them.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem like the reward that you get out of them is really worth it. So you kind of, in a way, don't spend them. But if the only reason why I did spend them was because I reached the cap. So if I didn't reach the cap, I probably would have been like, I'll save these and then I'll roll them all on an alt or something else like that, and get their
Right.
6-piece set on someone else. Because I could make another character more powerful than based off of, trying to find a ring. Because that's all I was looking for was Unities. And I was just gambling rings over and over
Yeah,
again.
see, that's another problem right now. But yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys are running pretty high rifts. I mean, you're getting 80 or 100 at a time. You're doing greater rifts and T5, T6, whatever. The question, the people are wondering about is if you're a casual player, or if you're not that, if you're doing T1 at most or something, you're getting 30, 40, 50, 60 at a time, or if you God forbid trying to stack them up doing bounties. What do you get, 2 per bounty or something?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if you're doing that and suddenly it's like 100 for an amulet? You're like, well, Jesus, this will take me a week. And it seems like this change is really made for people who are doing T6 and getting 100 at a time.
Yeah. Well, I think they did it to adjust to the fact that, I mean, we all hit T6 a lot faster in this season than we did at the beginning of Reaper Souls. I mean, even I never took a break from the game, from vanilla all the way through till now. Short of like a couple days because I had to work a bunch. So, and I'm almost caught up to my Paragon level. If not, I want to say I'm like a couple levels below it. So my entire played time hasn't, met up with, the last 2-3 weeks. that's kind of insane. But it's because I got into T6 in 2 days. Like in 2 days, I was running T6 like really efficiently, and then in 3 days, I was able to clear up to Greater Rift 33, 34 because I got my Firebird set.
You see people dying now in hardcore. You'll see the death notice, and they've played like 9 hours,
Hmm.
level 70s and stuff. And it used to be, as I was talking to with Xanth on the one, we both had well over 150 hours on some characters that died in D3 vanilla in hardcore, and that was like Paragon 80. I mean, that wasn't even Paragon 80, and you're playing an MP5,
Right.
and it's now people are there in 6 hours and they're doing T6 or higher. So it just you find so much more stuff. Obviously, we can't complain about the drop rates if people are able to gear up 10 times faster.
Right,
Than they used to be able
exactly.
to.
Which is why the Bloodshot thing kind of feels more like I said, a consolation prize. Like it exists to kind of, if you're not getting gear, you kind of have another option to like dump something into, but it's not really a reliable option. So it's still just kind of, I mean, I hate to bring up the reference, but it's a lot like justice points in World of Warcraft. It's just one of those things that's there that can kind of do something for you here and there, but for the
Well,
most
the
part,
problem
you
is that
just
like
ignore it.
justice points is kind of a guaranteed though, and that's the issue.
That's
It's
true.
not like you because the way I could see it is almost that would be better is that and I know there's a lot of things like they were talking about with like leveling like gems with experience as opposed to doing the RNG of having the levels with them is that they don't want something to be there was I forget which developer was the one that said it, but it was along the lines of they don't want you to have something that you're slowly building to, and then eventually you get there. And so instead of gambling for a chance at a legendary, you're getting a guaranteed legendary, and it's a matter of which legendary are you getting, kind of a thing. So in a way, you're still gambling because you're gambling for that slot, but you're getting a legendary. But to me,
Yeah.
I almost wonder like make it so that each one costs. I mean, what is it? It was a 10% chance. So really, you'd have to make it 10 times more than what it is, which you'd have to change the cap for it. But so
Right.
if they said for 500 shards, you can gamble for one item and it's going to guarantee to be a legendary, and you don't know what legendary it's going to be. But that to me seems better than spending 500 shards and then just getting screwed by RNG and getting nothing, and then you're kind of like, well, that was great. It's kind of this whole thing of like you put in this progress, or when you get like a Greater Rift Keystone or not, your Legendary Gem upgrade, and you're like, sweet, it's 90%, and you fail it twice in a row, and you're just sitting there
Hmm.
clenching your fist and want to rip your monitor apart and throw your computer across the room.
But that's what makes it a Diablo game. If you can't get screwed by RNG, it's not a Diablo game.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
That's an essential core of the element of the series.
that's the quote fun part of the game, I guess. So
Yeah.
I have no idea what justice points are. I guess it's a thing in WoW, but that sounds like absolutely like a DC comic book set in the 1860s with a crusading law and order judge.
Yeah, it's
He's like a gunslinger in the Old West. It's justice points,
justice points.
and he's gonna come and clean up Deadwood.
it's pretty
Man.
good.
And now someone's like, "How do you not know what's in
You should
World of
trademark
Warcraft?"
that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Blizzard already has trademarked that. It sounds like it's like a bad version. It's like Judge Dredd in the Old West, basically.
I guess
Justice points.
I guess with the Bloodshard thing, I feel like I would like it better now with the prices being higher to at least raise it to 1,000. I feel like that way, maybe the chance is better, or whatever. It's not like you're getting an advantage by gambling 1,000 shards over 500 shards, but I feel like that might feel a little bit better.
Well, the one thing I see is they didn't even necessarily need to raise the cap. It's that I mean, why make it 5 times as much, and raise it 33% the chance? Why didn't they cut it in half? I mean, it seems to me, reducing the amount of gambles that you got by 5 times, that's a pretty significant change to it. And I mean, I know their history of doubling it, whatever. But I mean, why
Hmm.
didn't they just double the price of them? So you'd had to make half as many trips, or maybe 3 times. I mean, 5 times is a lot. So it's kind of this whole thing of people say raise the cap. Well, it's like maybe they should just look at it and say, why did they raise it that much? And then just lower it down to, 3, 4 times as much. And in a way, you technically kind of raise the cap on it because you can gamble more, but it's just that they lower the price of it. But I
Yeah.
don't know. It was just a weird thing because it wasn't something that you were expecting to come out of, the 2.1.1 patch.
No, it really was. I was actually gonna say this. I didn't feel like gambling was that broken. I mean, like now it's not the best system in the world, but it's gambling. It never was. I honestly kind of wish that they would like downscale the amount of gear you're able to get as fast as you can because it would make the seasons like point feel a little bit more drawn out. Maybe I don't know. I feel like everyone geared up really fast, and I know that I'm at a point right now to where I could roll another character, but I don't really want to. And I
We'll just get
really,
another wizard anyway, though. Right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I haven't rolled another character since the season started, but I don't care to play one. I like my wizard a lot, so
Well, that's why you can't get any upgrades, though. See,
Yeah, I know exactly, but I mean, at the
that's why
same point,
there's only one left-handed unity that's of any use
but
to
there's
you.
not a whole lot of progress I'm going to make with a different character. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be able to run a witch doctor to where I'm at with my wizard right now. There's just no way, and I'm not going to be interested
Well,
enough
there's
to
no point in
want to.
playing it then. If you can't be even more powerful with another character, why bother playing it?
Right? Yeah. No.
It's not like you'd
Exactly.
have fun doing it
Right?
or
Yeah.
anything.
Who knows? Who plays for fun, right? No.
Yeah, unless you can do T6 within 3
No, and
hours,
that's
it's a
why
waste
I'm
of
still
time.
playing the wizard. I have a lot of fun doing it. I just wish I was still finding gear. That's all it was. I wish I was still I wish I didn't have my Firebird set. Honestly, I wish I was still looking for pieces of it or something. I don't know.
Sounds like someone should be playing hardcore.
Yeah.
Because then that wish comes true all the damn
Yeah, because
time.
that trivial death
As
that
Rankil's going to
takes
tell us
45
shortly.
minutes of your
It
time to
does.
level back up. It means a lot.
Yeah, all the gear's gone though. That's the character's nothing anymore, but the
Yeah,
gear.
but you can still
One of
get
the
it
thing
back
on
in like a day, if that now.
Yeah, could you get all your back in a day? You said you
No,
can't get
I can't get
gambling 10,000 shards. You don't get any upgrades.
That's
I
true,
can't
but I'm
I
gambling
can't
rings
get
and
back a lot of
amulets.
the gear that I lose. I'll tell you that.
Really?
One more thing on gambling before we get into the whole death characters and stuff is are you guys having issues with the shortage of yellow materials now? Because I mean, they said they wanted to cut down on the amount of gamble on the amount of trips to salvage, which of course I didn't think was a problem. Now that we have a salvage all button, it's done in 1 second. But then people are. I pointed out. I think I did the math on it, breaking down roughly 500 shards. You used to get maybe 85 yellows, and now you get about 10. Obviously depending on the luck of what your gambles turn out with.
Right.
But you're getting like 80 or 70 fewer yellow materials every time you fill up on shards, which doesn't take long. And especially if you're doing greater rifts where they don't drop materials, no items at all, obviously. But it seems like people are either like, "This is terrible. I have no yellow materials," or else people are like, "Why the hell would you need yellow materials? I have 17 stacks of 1,000 in my stash."
See, I'm on
So
that
where
side.
do you guys come on that?
I'm on the several thousand, yeah, but I mean, I guess it depends on what you're gambling for, or not gambling, you're enchanting, because was it chest and legs take up a ton of crystals. And so when you get a chest and you're like, oh, I want 3 sockets on it, and you re-roll it 15 times, and then you realize, oh crap, I just burned through 2 or 3 thousand or something, like, whatever it is. I mean, that's happened to me before, where you have it. But I was kind of in a comfortable place where my character didn't have to do too much enchanting, so I was just stocking up on them, and I just kept making, instead of being like, oh, 1 full stack is enough, I just kept putting more and more stacks because I'm like, I'm going to use these eventually. So, and that's kind of my way of looking at it. But
Yeah, I
I don't
was the
know.
same.
I'll run out at some point in time, and it's going to suck. But I mean, that's kind of what it is. Is that you're starved for something. There always has to be something. Otherwise, it's kind of like, well, then what's the point of putting those materials in if there's no limitation to them?
Yeah, same thing. I have thousands of them. But again, I don't play a lot of alts, and I haven't had to roll anything in a while. My gear's pretty good right now. My very minor upgrades that I need, and I don't really need to enchant a whole lot. So, I mean, I've got a lot right now, but it has been a popular complaint, both in like community chats and on the forums and stuff. So I don't know. I definitely see it being a problem, especially if you're running Greater Rift because you're not getting many materials, and like I know that blue and yellow materials got an increase on their drops, but yellows are still kind of weak. So I don't know. I'm with Rankil. I haven't had a lot of troubles yet, but it's definitely seemed to be a big issue for a lot of people.
It seems like they buffed the drop rate of blues. I get 2 blue items all the time from chests now, and that seems like that never used to happen. You would usually get 1, but I don't even pick up blues. I have well over thousands of blue and whites, and I have like 17 yellows. I'm always out of yellows. I pick up every rare I see in a game just to salvage them.
So yeah,
Except if I'm totally full and I'm almost done with a rift, I'll just ignore the last few, because who cares? But
I
I'm always out of yellow materials.
I still pick up everything. Maybe that's crazy, stupid, or inefficient. I don't know, but I still pick up everything on the screen just because I'm a hoarder. I like to have, and I've got a lot of materials right now, so I probably could stop. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I could trade you some. You could sell me
Yeah,
some. Oh wait,
if only,
everything's
right?
bound on goddamn accounts. I did like that aspect of in Diablo 3 vanilla back when we had. That was the nice thing about not having materials being bound. That was how when you first got into hardcore, you would go around and pick up all the tomes of secret and sell them in the auction house.
Mhm.
And in hardcore, those were like 10, 12, 14K. So you could actually make pretty good gold doing that. And then people who were just going and got a lot of high-end gambling and didn't really bother picking up crap could just buy them easily because you had lots of gold. And now it's like you have to get everything yourself. So some people are complaining about the whole farming of stuff. You can't get rich farming for anyone else, and you got to farm yourself even if you don't want to. So
Yeah, and see, but at the same time, it's kind of like what Rankil says. If you don't have that gate on something, then what's the point? You got to have something that's keeping you playing the game to find stuff, to do stuff. It's if you just have a bunch of materials and can enchant as much as you want to, which I mean, I know I do right now, and he does, but if you're running out of it, it's probably because you're trying to find upgrades, which means you need to be playing the game anyways, which means is it really a complaint that you have to play more Diablo? I don't see that being a complaint.
If you die in hardcore, you go through a lot. I've had two characters die well into the 70s in seasons, and so each one of those I'd probably enchanted 10 set. You always do Ashiras and
Hmm.
Augils stuff like that when you first get to 70, and then you die, and you make 3 or 4 of those to get the decent mods, and then you die, and it's like that's a lot of yellow materials just went down the drain.
Right.
It's one last question on materials. The Imperial gems changed.
Oh,
Now,
so
now you
good.
Yeah,
need Imperial
good
gems
good
for
change.
crafting,
So
for
good.
enchanting jewelry, legendary jewelry, you need Imperial gem instead of a Flawless Imperial. And since both you guys have thousands of the other materials, I'm betting you probably have thousands of Imperial gems and don't have any cost to me.
Not in hardcore.
No. No, I don't. And I don't because I'm a wizard and because Topaz and because stupid. It's if you're running Stone of Jordan and or Ring of Royal Grandeur or Unity and then an amulet, every one of them take Topaz to roll and you have to use Topaz. I still, even though I'm doing those high grade rifts, still don't have any max level gems. I'm at the second to last tier in all of them. Because I've
But
had.
they're all yellow, right? You must have millions of all the other gems.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, of all the other stats for sure, but I'm never going to use them for anything, so there's that. I have one red gem, one green gem, one purple gem, one white gem. Wow, that was such a new way to put that, but yeah, diamond, amethyst, whatever. I have them all leveled up, for switching out for my helmet socket and for my weapon socket. But aside from that, all I need is topaz, and I can't get them. But this change definitely helped a lot. I mean, it's still early in the change, and I'm broke. I have none left, but it's definitely going to help me a lot in the long run. And I was able to roll my rings and amulets to stats I actually wanted because I had the ability to.
I just feel bad for
If
the
that,
guys that pre-rolled theirs to the flawless Imperials or whatever, and they showed
yeah, I was just gonna ask
screenshots of them
if
having
that
like hundreds of them that were
if
pre-rolled.
they had that change in 6 months ago, how many would you have? Billions?
Yeah, I'd have a lot more, and I'm sad about that part of it, but I'm just happy the change is in. I can farm; it's okay. I like playing the game, so it's fine. But I really wish it was this way when the season started because I would have max level gems. My DPS would be a little higher. I might be able to push a little higher in the greater rifts. Yeah, it would be nice.
So how's your gem variety, Rankil?
Nah, it's kind of all over a bit. I mean, there's some certain rings and some other ones. I've been having bad luck finding a Unity and SOJ. I have yet to find one. Not, gosh, I've been playing for like 100+ hours or something like that this season, and I haven't found a Unity or SOJ. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I don't know. The worst part for me is just like when characters die because all of that investment in the gems on that character goes away, and then you have to kind of start back over and remake all those gems all over again and sit there. But I mean, and that's kind of where Boon of the Hoarder it helps out with that. So at least I don't have to worry about the gold cost for it. But I don't know. I actually just recently lost my Boon of the Hoarder gem too, so I got to find another one.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's hard part of getting another one back. You got to get you didn't have more than one at any point. You didn't save them up.
No, I didn't. I actually I tested it later with other ones where you kind of like if you end up seeing one and you have your Boon of Hoarder and you're not using it, just sell it to the vendor and then go in there so that when it
Just
drops,
drop it on the ground.
I guess yeah, you can do that too. But yeah, so it's either way. You just have to have it like not be in your inventory or whatever. I guess it can be on an alt too. I think.
Yeah, if it's on an altar, you just drop you can drop any gem on the ground in town before you start a greater rift, and then you'll get that gem as well from the. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously not Boon of the Hoarder, but
The problem is
like I
that
wanted to get yeah, like you just said, you lose the gems on your character. I wanted to have multiples of a couple of gems, so I could level them up for other characters, or just at least have a spare. So if I died, I wouldn't have to go back to greater rift to get a new one.
yeah, the problem is too is that I mean gosh I saw I mean I probably saw something almost like 10 of the vault when we were doing back when it was normal bounty runs to do Act 1 caches. But since the change to the caches, like you don't have to run that many bounties anymore, and that's really the only way that you're going to end up seeing the vault run. So it's really hard now to kind of just accidentally kind of come across it because you rarely run bounties anymore.
Yeah, now
So,
farming it becomes way more prevalent.
yep.
And if only you'd saved up extras. Oh,
Yeah.
well. So
I found that when you're farming those vaults now, it's actually what I've been doing is depending on if I'm running greater rifts, I'll run like a low level greater rift while I'm waiting the timer out. I'll jump out and kill all the key wardens, and usually find some goblins while you're doing that, and then maybe do a couple bounties here and there, and then jump back in. I found a couple vaults just doing that kind of like macro farming, if that makes sense.
I found a vault the other day doing that and forgot to go back for it. I realized afterwards.
Oh man.
I was doing greater rifts and I was jumping out and I found it when I only had like 2 minutes to get back. You wanted to get back after the 4:30 timer because I was only going up one at a time, right?
Right.
And I just doing some quick bounty in Act 3 and I got a goblin right by the start of the bounty, like one of the area at crater levels. And I'm like, oh shit, I can't do this now. I only had a minute to kill, so I went back and did the Greater Rift and forgot all about it. And later that night, I was thinking, wait, did I?
Oh man, yeah.
But I was worrying about. I had a Boon of the Hoarder on the character. I wasn't going to get. I already had one extra, so it was just the gold I would have got. But you hate to miss out.
Hmm.
Obviously, legendaries from Greed, Lord of Jabba.
Lord
The
of
butcher
Jabba.
reskinned.
Yeah. So the one last thing on the gems is the Blizzard post about that said we're putting in methods to combine them to make ones to make the ones you don't into ones you do, or to give you a way to find the ones you want to find in the first place. Which seems like they're really overcomplicating it. Why don't they just put a damn recipe in? Trade any 3 gems for the one of a kind that you want. I mean, obviously that would take care of your problems, nerdlords.
Absolutely.
You just burn up all those useless diamonds and purples and reds
Or
and turn
and
into the main
here's a novel. I know that this is never going to happen because they just changed all of this, but just make crafting materials and gems tradable. Just make them not bound on account. I feel like there's so many games where I could
What could you
just
trade it for, though?
I would give anybody in my guild all of my gems for all of their topazes. Here, just take all of my my emerald. I don't need emeralds. I don't need amethysts or diamonds or rubies. Take all of these. Give me all your topazes. Good game.
I wish you were in hardcore. I've got about 100 topaz just sitting there.
Well,
in
if we could
materials.
do something about it, it'd be great. But even
Kind
if
of
I
in that
wasn't hardcore, I could.
I'm in support of that because the way that I see it is I think it's it's the whole buying an account and this whole trading, and for the people who do trade or something, and you can buy things with real money or whatever it is. But if you think of it, what do you get out of the crafting materials? I mean, maybe keep Forgotten Souls, keep those account bound, but the gems and the other crafting materials, make those tradable. But like, what can you get out of that? You still have to farm to get your Forgotten Souls to craft things. The only thing you can do on gems is upgrading gems to put into sockets for things, which is going to give you a marginal percentage, of DPS or toughness upgrade. And then, and then the other materials for re-rolling and enchanting things, which are stuff that's bound to your character anyway. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's not like all of a sudden you can go and trade, whatever it is and get your M6 set or something else out of it. It's just like
Right.
small augmentations to your character. And I see that might be, and especially like sometimes I'm in a game and say you're in a public game and some guy has something, he's like, oh, I don't want this, but you had bad luck and you didn't have a legendary to do a trade for a Forgotten Soul so that you could get the item, but like you don't have anything that you can trade him, whereas you could be like, here, I'll give you 10 marquee rubies or something for it, and the guy's like, oh, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that you can really trade except for, I mean, you're not going to trade someone rares. They're going to be like, you can go screw yourself. But
Right.
yeah, I mean,
I'd trade for rares just for the materials at this
yeah, I
point.
think at this point probably people would.
I
take
need
those.
need more veiled crystals.
Based on what they've said, they want the most efficient way of you finding things to be playing the game. Well, that wouldn't change that. You're not going to get a giant trading community that's going to form up just around gems. I mean, it's going to be a pretty simple, fast trade among people on your friends list.
Yeah.
You're not going to like dive on forums and be like, oh, I got to find some amethysts. Like it would be really simple, really easy. It wouldn't hurt anything. It's not going to like make anyone's. I mean, the only thing I could see it possibly being is if like an entire guild is funding one person with gems, but once they get max level gems, it doesn't matter. So I don't know. I don't see why, other than that they've just across the board, taken it out. I'm hoping that maybe in the future that'll be something that they at least revisit, but it would definitely make my life a lot easier. So
I think they just decided that auction house bad, bind an account good, and that's how everything is. It's across the board.
yeah.
And if they have a bunch of exceptions of what's bound and what's not, it'll just be confusing. Like legendaries, you could trade them for an hour or two after you find them. That would be totally confusing, and they wouldn't want to put in like arbitrary rules like that.
Well, and think about that now
Oh, wait.
with the seasons. Like, think about that now with the seasons, though, because like with as fast as I've geared up and people have geared up, I mean, everyone would be really highly geared, and people would be trading a lot if you actually could trade all of this gear. So I actually kind of am for like the actual gear being BOA, because I mean, if I could go trade for Firebirds, I would have gotten it probably even faster. And in a way more.
How many Firebirds have you found? How many extra
Oh
Firebird
I
sets
have,
would you have assembled for a
okay.
friend? Like
So
10?
I have every piece of Talrasha set twice, Veer set twice, and Firebird set 3 times, all with different roles. Some that haven't been. I have an entire stash tab that is nothing but wizard sets, and then I have an entire stash tab that's nothing but wizard offhands. So it's like I'm hoarding them, because you never know like what build you want to run and like what stats you want to maximize and stuff, and like I don't know, the less you have to reroll an item, the better. So I just keep all of the sets I find, at least the wizard specific ones. So it's I would be beyond rich right now, but
Okay, so last thing on gyms, a mental exercise for you, nerd words.
Okay.
If you could, if the recipe was in there right now, and you could trade, you could trade two marquee for one of the kind you want, any two other ones, you would do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would trade.
Okay, three for one.
I would trade. Yeah, absolutely. I would do five for
I'm going
one.
out. It's an auction here. Four for
I
one.
would do. I would. I think 5 for 1 would be the caps. The
Okay,
caps.
10 for one.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I would still do it, but that would be a bit much in
But
the
you
long.
actually wouldn't like. You'd feel dirty.
Yeah, I would. I would feel like I was
Okay,
being molested by Blizzard. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's Jay Wilson's job. I was wondering just how high you would go on that. So
Yeah, I would say 5 is the like most comfortable max on that. But I mean, again, I literally have no use for those other gems, so
then I think you'd be happy to do 10 to
a
one.
100 to 1 wouldn't matter because I would still be like, well, I'd still have a topaz that I could possibly use. So there you go.
Okay, changing the topic to recent play stories, and Rankil's been bitterly stewing in a sea of resentment, which I believe is a tourist attraction in the part of Israel, and Dead Sea of resentment. And Rankil, you had a monk die recently. Why don't you tell us what happened and why it was Blizzard's fault, or possibly Jay Wilson's fault?
Not a monk. I guess monks, plural.
You've had a monastery die lately.
Yeah, it's been well this last one, the fifth one, because there's five of them that have died. This one at least lasted a week before it died, but then the four of them all died within the same week, and it all kind of stemmed from which kind of goes back to the whole thing of gambling for unities. So I was trying to press. I was doing a Greater Rift 26, and I was trying to press on, and basically it's like once you start going on there, the damage really starts kind of ramping up, and if you don't have because a unity combo pretty much makes you go 5 Greater Rift levels higher than what you are because it's
Can you briefly say what that is for people who don't know?
for the unity combo.
Yeah, kind of exploiting the whole
It's
not dying
yeah,
follower thing.
it splits the damage between the wearers of the ring, and then there's a follower token that says your follower cannot die, which to me I read that as your follower can still take damage. It's just they cannot go below, they cannot hit 0 hit points, but apparently it means that they're immune. So any damage that you take goes to them, but they don't take it, so they stay alive. But then since they don't take damage, they don't send it back to you. So it's just straight up a 50% damage reduction, which is huge. I mean, there's really no one single slot that you can use on your character that will double your toughness is what it effectively does.
Yeah,
And
and that's if just to make for people who don't know this, that's playing by yourself with a
yeah,
follower that you and your follower both have a unity.
yeah.
It's sort of and the follower also has the cannot die legendary
And I
Yeah,
follower.
mean,
and also another
there's
thing to
probably
send
people
out
that
to
got
people.
lucky on like getting into the 30s or something like that, but most of the people, pretty much anyone who is in the 30s and aboves, I can probably pretty much guarantee that within the 90th and 95th percentile maybe are wearing a double unity combo, in order to get there. And it's kind of that's what the, if you want to call it the meta game is right now of solo Greater Rift play is that you need that ring combo, which 3 items in order to work and to progress.
Hmm. No, he's exactly right. And something else to throw out there for people that didn't know about Unity before this: don't ever use that in a public game or a group game because if someone else is using it, you're going to take more damage.
It's actually
But
I did it in hardcore with 4 people, and it's not that bad as
oh,
long as you
really?
have as long as because you're taking 25. What it does is it splits the damage, and you're only taking 25%. As long as those people have enough regen to kind of counteract for it, it actually works out pretty well.
Well,
I did this in non-season, but it is really sketchy because if a guy takes molten explosions, you're pretty
hmm
much going to kill
Well, that's
everybody.
what I was going to say. Is you're
Yeah,
paying for other people's mistakes. So
yeah,
if I'm a wizard with 300,000 health, which isn't very much, and I'm running force armor, but I've got 2 barbarians and a crusader in the group, and they're pop acrobats whatever, and run straight into arcane, I'm dead. See ya.
yeah.
So it's just be careful if you're using it in group.
Well, the interesting thing too is it transfers directly the damage. So if you have, so say someone who's wearing it and say they had like no armor or anything else, so they took the full like it was a 1 million damage hit, and they took that 1 million damage hit, it'll transfer 1 million, half of that, so it'll transfer 500,000 damage directly to you. It doesn't have any armor check into it.
Right.
It just takes
Exactly.
that direct damage and it puts it into you. So that's the real risk of it too, of when you're trying to share it with someone else in your party, is that if they have worse toughness or mitigation than you, it's actually benefiting them, but it's hurting you in a way. So
Exactly. Yeah. And it's one of those situations where, especially for you hardcore people out there, I would be too nervous to run it for sure.
no, we never run it, and or when one person is running it, we always joke around. They're like that we're gonna put on a Unity or something else, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like we make sure that there's one person that's wearing it if they are wearing it in the group. So
Is there a distance for the sharing of it?
I don't I don't know.
If someone's standing in town, do they still
I'm
share?
actually not sure. I've only used it with my follower, and he's always right up my butt. So don't know.
Yeah, but
Be curious to try that. I mean, obviously, 'cause you're not going to die in town.
That's
yeah.
true.
At least you're not supposed to. That, of course, that's not always been the case in the game. But I mean, today supposedly you're not going to die in
Yeah,
town.
there's been what was it, that one legendary gem that was bugged where it had you and the distance between
Zays.
them, but you would go to town and it would consider it an infinite distance basically.
Yeah,
So
that was
you're
how we were
still
cheesing on PTR.
yeah, you're still linked. So you might it might actually still work that way. But yeah, like you said, is I nobody really runs it. Maybe in softcore some people might run it, but yeah, I haven't. I mean, nobody in hardcore does. But I don't know. But yeah, back to like my character
Yes,
dying is
your monk was dying because of Unities. How does that connect?
yeah, so I just didn't have that, and then there was a one of the Tuscan Charger dudes or whatever it was ended up, charging me to the face and hit me for, I had 400 and some odd thousand hit points and hit me for 350k or something like that, and I wasn't anywhere in a bad situation. I had like 15 million toughness, so and yeah, so that character died, and that was well, my first character's name was Janet Reno, and then I decided to say, okay, I'm gonna make
That's an awesome character name, by the way.
yeah. And that's my favorite part about Diablo is naming my characters. And then I made the next character was Emma Watson, and then she bit the bullet. I forget how she ended up dying. She died some other horrible death, which was something else kind of in the similar. Oh no, wait, no. Janet Reno died on a 24, and then Emma Watson died on the 26. But again, it
What
was the same thing.
class was Janet Reno? I got to know that.
They're all monks.
They're all
Yeah,
monks. Okay.
I have all my hardcore characters are females, so I name them after them. And then, but after Emma Watson died, then I decided to make the bearded lady, which was a male monk. Um,
Of course.
and then, so I made one of those, which I leveled him up really quick, and I was trying out because I had a rhyme heart and a whole bunch of cold gear, and I was like, oh, this is going really good, and I was doing on T4, and then I just like dashed into a group of guys and just got swarmed and got killed. And that character was maybe, I would want to say 3 hours old or something like that when they died, and I lost like a good amount of really good cold gear on there. And then so I made another character, and that character was a fire Shenlong set one with like attack speed. This was like really digging into the coffers of what I had left over in the gear on my characters. And I was running around it was in a greater rift or a regular rift or whatever it was, and I go through, it was like first room, everything's okay, go into the second room, dashing strike into a champ pack, and disconnected from the server. So
Oh,
then there was
man.
a whole process of sitting there and trying to get back on, and then yeah, sure enough, character was dead. Turns out it wasn't Blizzard's fault because it was actually my router was going bad, and so I ended up getting a replacement router, and that fixed it. But yeah, it was kind of a bad way to find out that you have a flaky router.
Yeah.
And then
So now Luna Lovegood is your new one. How is she doing?
the new one was Miley Cyrus. I went back to an actual female,
Of course.
Oh,
and
God.
And
so
you hit them. You hit them like a wrecking ball. I take it.
yes, well, I kind of died by a wrecking ball of sorts, but this character was by far the best like progressed character of everything I had. I mean, I was like a million damaged. I had the Sunwuko set, like everything as far as like the rolls on my items. I mean, I had things that were like 400 dexterity and 399 vitality, like that type of rolls. Like there was really the only thing that I was getting was like 5 main stat or like 1% more elemental damage. I had a 30 almost 3800 DPS flying dragon that I had, and which actually I gambled on the old system, which was kind of fun. It was like the last inventory slot, and I got the flying dragon. So I was like super excited about this, but I didn't even try and progress beyond 26, or 25 really, is what I finally cleared with that character because of that double unity combo. And then so all my friends and stuff, we all die, and we were getting into this good like power leveling thing. And so I was power leveling my friend today, and I ended up doing, because what we do is we do T6, and then we set up all the bounties, and then we get them so that we turn them in just at the end of it so that the guy turns 70, and then we have 5 all the acts T6 bounties to turn in. But he was level 65, so it was T6 level 65, but I was running a bit too aggressive on my speed clearing with a little bit gold find and my Boon of the Hoarder gem. And I ended up going into Act 4, and I pulled like the Key Warden and a champ pack and something else, and then I don't know if it was just like lag in the game or whatever, but then a Mallet Lord kind of just appeared to me, but he was already mid-motion of his like swing motion. And I was sitting there thinking to myself going, what is this guy doing here? But then before I even finished that train of thought, I was just splat and dead. Because I was already at like half health because of the other guys and like everything else that I had pulled being an idiot. And then I was just kind of like I just died. This sucks.
And I feel like Mallet Lord deaths are one of the worst feelings too.
Yeah.
I feel like you feel terrible about yourself. You're like, God, Really?
It was, I mean, it was one of those life flashes before your eyes. Like I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I should pop my Serenity right now. I should probably dashing strike out of here. But it's just more like, what is this guy doing here? He shouldn't be next to me. He kind of just appeared, and then I don't know. It was because I was just running through doing that, and I usually didn't have. I mean, that character was running T6 like easy, but it was just that I was in a bad circumstance, and I died to a white mob at level 65 T6. But so basically, I quit doing monks because I'm kind of tired of them, and mainly because I'm dying. I don't really like the survivability thing. I don't want to find another flying dragon because that's you pretty much need a flying dragon also in that build, and it's very you only run holy with the Sunmuko set with a Diabo, and it's kind of like, and I didn't want to. I mean, I guess I'll need a Unity anyway, but I rolled a Demon Hunter and just decided because I had all this other Dex gear, and I figured I'll do the M6 now and say I did it, and then I'll get over with it and probably play a Crusader or something later. But that's my.
So are you doing the same build every time? I mean, are you doing different stuff based on the gear? What is your monk strategy?
Yeah.
If you've done so many of them.
Well, everything was eventually. I mean, leading up to getting the Sunwuko set, but like the one character that died with the Shenlong set, I was running that. That was actually pretty fun because I was going to go for like a full on as much attack speed as I could because the Shenlong set it's like 3 divided by your attacks per second is the internal cooldown on it. So the faster attack speed you have, the more of these 1200% weapon damage fireballs come out. But yeah, it's just kind of like whatever I had in my stash, I was stashing up all these other elements and playstyles. But then as I was killing off characters, I was like, well, I guess I can play this playstyle. And then eventually I would, because the Sunwuko set's only 4 pieces, so it was pretty easy to get. But yeah, and then it's just, I don't know, but everything just led to that. And it's kind of, I mean, every class is kind of that way, where you just lead to, the one build that you end up doing. But T6, you can kind of get a little bit more freedom once you start getting your gems and stuff up. And that's kind of where I'm having fun right now. Like, I really don't like Greater Rifts. I mean, I like kind of the challenge aspect of it, but I feel that, I need that Unity combo to move forward with them. So I was trying to get that character up on T6, and then I was going to build some other stuff. But yeah, I've kind of just, I've been tired of the survivability stuff and like near-death experience. It's unreliable as a cheat death passive or whatever. So I kind of that's why I switched over to the Demon Hunter.
Well, they're very underplayed and a very sweet character now. So I probably have trouble finding a build that works.
Yeah, it's something where you end up like you just play Frogger or something like that, and just avoid the trucks and trains moving by, and then everything else dies around.
Except you've got a gigantic nuclear machine gun in the middle of the highway doing all the shooting for you while you run around,
destroying all the cars coming at you.
Yeah, pretty much. So
I had a monk that died last week, and I have the control system for monk makes me unhappy, and you haven't mentioned that yet, so probably it doesn't bother you so much. But the thing that's always bothered me, I did an interview with Wyatt Chang and Josh Mosquera, I believe it was last summer, and harangued Josh about this for like 5 minutes, and Wyatt was like, "Yeah, we understand. Maybe we can get that in there someday." But I hate that you can't put. I want to put my combo skill on my left click and my right click, and then have 5 hotkeys on the keyboard. Because the way you use a combo skill on the left click, this is also true for Crusaders and Barbarians, of course, maybe melee attacks. Melee attacks are much better to have on your right click, because you can just hold that down, and it will auto-acquire everything as you mouse over it. And you don't accidentally pick up crap during combat. You don't have to click on everything individually. It just works much more easily for me, and I much prefer that. And that didn't matter so much in D3V because there were lots of big, you needed Wave of Light or something like that was what everyone used on your left click, in the general monk build. And that was kind of your big bomb, and you just use your right click to build up spirit. But that's not the way monks are played anymore. We have so many different ways to play that. I'm sure Rankil could give us a 20-minute digression on every different possible monk build. But the game is no longer click lots to build up spirit and then spend it in a big lump at once. No one does that. Like no builds do that anymore.
It's just ignore generation or have some other form of generation and then just
there's just so many other ways to play now and multiple spenders and etc. But I don't like having to put a spender or a main click on my left thing, and you can't put Serenity or your aura or whatever on the left click instead because it doesn't work that way. So basically, when the monk build I was playing previously, which was I was only up to T3, and it was not a build that was going to go that much further. I had the new seasonal fist that gives you 6 stacks of sweeping wind, and I was using that with pull and basically just zapping everything into me and just immediately incinerating them with that, and using a left click for some power stuff. But I wasn't running Serenity because I hated having my main clicker on the left, and I'm like, oh, dashing strikes plenty. I'm only doing T2, T3, and then of course I finally got really bad luck and I got frozen. I got vortex into a frozen right when it popped. And was stuck there for like 5 seconds just watching them beat me to death. That's the worst part. Mm-hmm. all your deaths were in one shot, which sucks. But it's even worse when you're helpless and just sitting there thinking, if I didn't have a wasted skill on my left click, I would have Serenity and just be walking out of this laughing. So I've wanted that change forever made, and Blizzard refuses to do it because Blizzard hates monks.
Yeah, my annoyance with monks is the auto teleport. Like for softcore, it's not that big of a deal, but for hardcore, like I like the auto teleport. On Fist of Thunder and like Way of the Hundred Fists on the one Fist of Fury has it as well, or also Epiphany. But the problem is like, which is actually how my what was it, the Emma Watson, how she died, was because I had the Arcane Immune amulet. So I was standing in an Arcane Beam and I went and attacked and engaged the guy, and then it auto teleported me off of the Arcane Beam that I was using to heal myself. And so by pulling me away, that's what brought me down that one certain amount of health, so that one guy, when he charged me and he killed me. But it's like, it's kind of like there's certain times where I'm like, no, I'm hitting the shift key and it's like I want to stand still and I don't want to teleport. Whereas if I'm like letting go of the shift key, it should let me teleport and move freely all around the place. I kind of feel like when I'm telling myself to force stand still, I shouldn't auto teleport away from where I'm standing. That's my big annoyance with the monk too, is that I can get myself in some, like, you can even be like in normal range and hitting them by holding down shift and not teleporting, and it'll auto teleport you, like a few feet forward, which puts you into like explosions or, lightning, get more lightning hits or arcane beams or something like that. So it's just kind of, yeah, monks are weird in a lot of the controls and stuff they have. I like the class, but I don't know, I just kind of was getting frustrated with it.
And you're a wizard nerdword, so you don't care about any of this.
No, actually, I do like the monk a lot. I mean, like the monk's the one. It was actually the class when D3 like was first coming out that I was like, I'm gonna play a monk. Like that sounds awesome. And I rolled a wizard first, and I never went back. But I played. I mean, I did play a little bit of monk, and I played a little bit on console too. I like the class a lot, but it's just I just like the wizard a lot more, man.
I like the Demon Hunter's mobility more than I feel like the monk should have the Demon Hunter's mobility though, and that's kind of that's the other lacking part. Like when they move dashing strike to charges as opposed to it costing spirit, it really to me felt like it kind of pulled away this awesome mobility they had in vanilla, and it put him into this kind of like slower moving around and everything else. So I'm just sad for my dead guys.
Yeah, you got a whole monastery there. Yeah. So what's your any give us your recent exciting play stuff, nerdwords?
Well,
You haven't lost any wizards, I take it.
No, actually, I have not. But I also, again, am a softcore noob, so pardon me. But no, I've been doing a lot of greater rifts lately. I leveled up a lot of my gems. I was grinding those out, and I really wanted to push higher in the greater rifts, get back on the leaderboards, or get higher up on the leaderboards. And the problem I'm having right now is kind of the same as Rankil. Is like I mean, I have an SOJ, but it's terrible. It's really bad. I want to say it rolled like attack speed, which is god awful for a wizard, intellect and or intelligence. Sorry, not intellect, intelligence, and then like life per second or something. And then I rolled. I think I had some other stat that I rolled into a socket. So that's like my SOJ right now. And then my Ring of Royal Grandeur is a really good roll, so that's fine. But I really need a Unity to push higher. I can clear 35, 36 pretty reliably. And there are wizards that have cleared, I think, as high as 38, 39. I think there's even someone who got lucky on a 40. But you really can't compete unless you have that Unity, and there's no way to reliably farm that Unity, so there's no way to reliably compete. It's just I guess it's a part of the game, but it's just if I had a Unity, then my skill would be more a tell of like where I was on the leaderboard rather than my bad luck, I guess. Now, mind you, it's like that with a lot of pieces. There's certain pieces you just have to have. I mean, as a wizard, you're not going to push beyond 30 without Firebirds unless you've just got a really, really great synergized build. But Firebirds is really the only way to push the super, super high tier Greater Rifts. And really, I mean, when you're on Rift 38, even the little frozen like waves that the elite affixes that drop like burn me down in a second. It's just you have to have that Unity to be able to stay alive long enough, even to just react to Thunderstorm, Jailer, or that, because those are auto damage. Like as soon as they spawn, they're doing damage. There's no way to avoid it whatsoever. I mean, Jailer one shots me without force armor, regardless, every time, and I've got 400k health. So it's one of those things where you find yourself like needing that one specific item, but for every single class in the game, it's a Unity cheese, and I really feel like something needs to be done about it. I don't feel like it necessarily needs to be removed, but I feel like if it was removed, Maybe we wouldn't be able to push so high in the greater rifts, but it would be a more even playing field across the board, because you wouldn't have to wait for not one but two unities to drop to be able to compete.
And a follower token.
Yeah, and a follower token. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a cool combo, and I think it's really neat that it's in the game. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily, but I am saying that because it's necessary for greater rifts, there should at least be a way to one reliably farm it, or it should be removed.
Yeah. The other thing too, though, is that even if you do get a Unity, though, there's still a lot of the guys who are even on the super high on the rifts. That's more even into luck of getting a conduit or a super crazy dense. You know, like the
Right.
guy I saw the guy who just latest did the Demon Hunter with the lightning build or whatever. But it
Yeah.
was like a full rift of wretched mothers and zombies and skeletons
Right.
or something. So it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah,
Right.
anyone could clear that. Not saying anyone could, but I'm saying that, a lot of people with lesser gear could still clear that same rift too, and it's a
Right.
matter of like, I, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's anything they could do necessarily this season, to change that kind of stuff. Because if they made, like you said, if they made something with Unity and pulled it away, then what would happen is that those people who are already up there, they would stay there and no one would match them again. So
Right.
the only way they would
Exactly.
do that is they'd have to wipe the leaderboards, which would be a whole other shit fit of
Right. No, which I
people
don't expect
complaining.
them or want them to do either.
Yeah.
But I feel like in
So
the future, them addressing it would be good.
but I mean, kind of in a way though, is that and these people would say, okay, well, erasing the leaderboards is bad, but it's kind of when you think about it though, like then if you went onto the leaderboards and you could just do maybe a few rifts, you would be back up to the point where you would normally should be at that
Right.
point. It's not like by removing your top leaderboard score, you've removed hundreds of. I mean, I guess maybe you did remove hundreds of hours, but you were sitting there fishing for conduit shrines and zombie rifts or
Right.
something like that.
Exactly.
But
See, I'm okay with the RNG on Greater Rifts, but I feel like they could even just remove Unity from the seasonal loot pool, and that would be good. Like they could keep it, non-season. That's fine. Still use it for your Greater Rifts over there. That's great. But for the
yeah,
seasonal loot pool, I feel like, and that wouldn't really hurt people a whole lot. I mean, there might be some like, I don't know, there might be some outcries from the forums, but aside from that, I don't
That's not,
think it.
I mean, that's not that bad. I mean, there's even those other two. They were talking about seasons and just saying like, oh, we're going to completely possibly remove crit hit damage from a season, so it won't
I mean,
stop
I'm
on
down for
items.
that. I
Yeah,
want them to do radical things with seasons. I feel
yeah,
like I've had a lot of fun with it, and I feel like interesting things. Like I mean, there was someone they brought it up on the West March Workshop podcast about like completely like getting rid of set items from seasons. That would be
yeah.
really interesting. Like there's some really cool things they could do with it, but that's where I'm stuck right now. Is that like I've geared my wizard to the point to where I have to have a unity to do anything else. And it's frustrating because there's nothing that I can do besides. I mean, yeah, I'm playing, I'm enjoying the game, I'm having a lot of fun, but I want to be in greater rifts, but there's no point. I literally on 34, 35, 36, anything that even like looks my way kills me. If I had that unity, I'd at least be able to like drop something and run away. I don't know. But I mean, that's going to happen. The higher the difficulty goes, the more bottlenecks into you have to have these specific things to do better. But I just, with the leaderboards, they are literally, I mean, the top 500, of most of the leaderboards are using unities because you have to. It's the way it is at this point.
And your soft course, you probably have like what, 300, 400 toughness too? 300, 400, 3, 4 million toughness
No, I'm,
probably,
I'm
and,
sitting at 12
and
million.
like 150k hit points. So you're really unusual when you
No,
die. No, you said
I'm
you had more.
sitting at about 12 million toughness with 450k hit points. But yeah,
And of course, you probably have 10,000 added topaz, so it's hard not to have that. You get so much resol just for free as
yeah.
your
But
build.
again, my topaz
Of course,
aren't
so does
even
everybody
max
else now
level,
too.
so
See, that was good in the old days when I was playing monks and demon hunters. We could complain that we didn't get awesome bonuses from dexterity, and it was like, oh, it's so easy to get toughness with the other classes. You get all that bonus from strength and from intelligence, and now we get it. We get the same damn thing. So it's
Well,
kind
I
of
mean,
back to
and
what
the
it is.
gearing has changed really because the bonuses you get from your gems, even on the other classes, like I mean, I don't know specifically with other classes, but I know with wizards, I mean, nobody's really stacking armor and all resistance. Like no one that's pushing greater rifts is doing that because it doesn't matter. You're gonna get one-shotted by everything. You need a unity and
Yeah.
force armor, and then you're good. So you just stack vitality, so you've got at least a bigger health pool, and that's it. You get a string of ears for 30% reduction on melee damage. You have a Eye of Et Lich for 30% reduction to ranged attacks, and then you have your Unity for 50% damage across the board, force armor so you can't be one-shotted, and then you just stack health. So armor and all resistance become completely trivial once you get into greater rifts, especially once you hit 33, 34, 35, because it doesn't matter how 100 all resist isn't making or breaking you dying. It's going to happen anyway.
Okay, so the thing we're supposed to talk about now, we're an hour into this, we haven't gotten to it yet. But the changes they made to this will be our last topic, by the way, I think. The Greater Rift trials. So both you guys have been doing the higher level stuff. They changed the kind of monsters you get, the density you get. The main complaint going into it was that it was too hard for melee characters because you would get flyers or other stuff that would run away from you in the waves in the realm of trials, and you couldn't. Monsters did a whole thing on this on the last podcast where he's been playing a Crusader, and he could do up to 38 in Greater Rifts pretty comfortably, but he can only get a key for like 30 or 31 usually, just because of how the waves worked versus how the rifts worked. And they made big changes to the monsters in the last, and obviously Demon Hunters, where everyone liked Demon Hunters because you could just Sentry up and go so high immediately and get these 40 and 42 and 44 keys, and then you'd spawn 100 of those and try to get a really perfect run, like you guys were just saying the guy did with the Demon Hunter. That's how you get the really high ones. So they've changed it some, and we've got a wizard here and about 9 monks between the two of you.
Named
Rankil, have you done the higher level, the waves lately? How does it change in the past? Do you like the changes?
I mean, for as far as, well, they were kind of dorked up in the beginning too, because when they first came out, like you would run, because group play, we could do like 30 plus with, I mean, you can't use a Unity really too much in a group,
right?
But we were still doing like 30 plus in hardcore in my clan, and that was okay. But we would be pulling up to like, it was like wave like 37 or 38 or something like that to get those ones. But then we did the same thing when the patch first came out, and it was like, oh, you get a 22 rift or something. We're like, what the, why is this all messed up? And now they worked it. It's a bit more, but I still hate. I honestly like. I like kind of running Greater Rifts because it removes items. It kind of cleans, of how it is and just makes it so all you're doing is killing. But then like you get to do this like stupid trial thing where you're standing there killing, and it's supposed to tell you which rift that your level you're appropriate for, but you're killing white mobs that come to you and are fed to you and all this other stuff. It's a really clunky system, I think. I kind of almost wish that they would just go away with it and if you completed a Greater Rift 30, you can pick a 30 to start at, or something like that, or you kind of like the group goes in and you can collectively pick which ones you start at as long as someone has already completed that, and separate them to solo, 2-player, 3-player, 4-player. So you can't do like a 4-player 32 rift and then go start a 32 rift solo. Like you still have to beat it solo in order to progress on yourself. And I don't know if they would tie it per character or per account or something like that, but I don't know. I think the trial system is kind of stupid, and it actually turns me off from running rifts because I have to spend all this extra time to, get these 20 some odd rifts, and it's like, I know I can do it, and I'm killing these white trash mobs. It's like, why doesn't the game just give them to me?
So how are you on rifts, Nerdboard?
Yeah, I mean,
trials especially.
Well, he's kind of the same way. Running, unfortunately, like, there's one distinct class that we named earlier, the M6 Demon Hunter, that has the advantage over everybody else. So it was for a long time where you just get your Demon Hunter buddy to jump in a rift with you to give you all your high-level rift keys so you can skip all the levels. I mean, running a Firebird set Wizard, I can probably like reliably get 29 or 30 regularly. But actually, I did one right before the podcast, and I got 32, which I think is the highest I've ever gotten out of like doing the realm by myself. It's just hard when you're stacking a dot that you have to wait to tick down and whatever. I can't really. It doesn't necessarily feel better or worse for me because I still. Basically, the system I'm running, because I hate it so much, is I'll do 10 keys at a time. Like, I'll do 10 Realm of Trials, get all my keys, and then I'll just do the lowest level first. So, if I run 10 and I have, 5 level 30s, 3 level 28s, and 2 level 26s, I'll run the 26s, level them up, 28s, level them up, 30s, level them up. And then I'll just, that way I'm, like, constantly progressing and, like, getting in a groove, but, pushing the difficulty on each one, so I've got a higher chance of actually getting further. But I mean, and this hasn't really changed that for me, so I'm still kind of doing the same thing. But it would be nice if I could just do a drop-down menu because it feels incredibly trivial to have done 200 plus Greater Rifts, and I still have to do this stupid trial to like prove that I can do it. Like, just give me a drop-down menu and let me jump into a Greater Rift. If I want to do the Roma trial to like, I almost feel like they should change it to like a like if you do a realm of trial, it holds what level you beat, and you can do anything below that, like as a drop down menu. But you can always go back and do a realm of trial if you want to kind of push what you can start at. That would be cool.
Yeah, if it would tailor it to the group, because say you had a guy that you were kind of carrying, you could reset the bar. But also, like you were talking about that earlier too, is like I called it like the slow roll, where you wait for the 4.5 minutes, because you want to go +1 level. That's another thing that kind of sucks, is that you could do a riff that's for me, it was like I would do like a 25 and it said, okay, the next one you're going to get is like, because I actually lucked out on the 25 that I did and it gave me like a 29. And I'm like, there's no way in hell that I'm
A
going from a
29.
25 to a 29. I want to go up +1. So,
Yes,
but it's like, but what am I going to do? Am I going to sit there and every single time and just twiddle my thumbs or go run some other things? It just seems
that's
like
boring.
you
Yeah.
shouldn't be able to do that, and you should be rewarded for kind of pressing through. But at the same time, like if it's allowing you to skip 5 levels, you should have a screen that pops up and says, upgrade your keystone. Now, do you want 26, 27, 28, 29? And you get
Right.
to pick
Exactly.
which one you want. So that way you're not sitting there going like, well, how much time do we have left? Let me pause this or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to do that. You should just go through, kill everything as quick as you can, and then pick the one that you want to move to the next one. You don't have to do this kind of like workaround stuff, but
And
and
I
that's what
feel
I
the same.
thought 2.1.1 was going to kind of do, was something that like fixed the system of how things worked and interacted, and instead they kind of just like they just did these really weird, bizarre changes that didn't need to be done. I felt.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. It's just okay. Just my wizard, like I said, that's all I've played since season started. And for me to go in and do a greater rift, 30, 32, like I'm gonna burn through that in a second right now. So it's to the fact that I have to go in and do that. I mean, like you're still playing the game, you're still having fun. You're doing risks, whatever. But if I'm just wanting to compete, or if I want to jump in, it's like I want to push that 30, 39, 40, see if I can get higher. I have to spend a lot of time grinding it up there, which again is not a terrible, terrible thing, but it would be nice if I just didn't have to do the Realm of Trial. Like, I'm okay with having to start at a lower tier and like level up the rifts, but like the Realm of Trial just feels kind of trivial and it's not balanced. It's nothing like the rift you're doing. There's no elite pack whatsoever, which is what dictates how long a rift usually goes anyways. So like killing a bunch of white mobs, whether they're mixed packs or random packs, doesn't really change the fact that it's not a tell on how geared your character is or how well you play.
And you'll even clear the same level, and you might get a different keystone. So you'll get
Exactly. And
you'll clear a 35 and get a 27. You'll clear 35 and get a 32, and you're just
right.
going, "What's the
What?
difference? I did the
Yeah,
same thing."
exactly. Exactly. So it's and it's just like, for a Firebird's wizard, just using, Hydra and Apocalypse or Blizzard, what I just stand in the middle of the room and let everything run to me. When it comes to me, I just teleport out of it, teleport back in. It's like it's completely trivial. I just stand there, cast a thing, and let it die around me. Teleport out if I'm about to die. Teleport back in, and that's it. And it's just
Yeah, I have I
it's
have
literally just a
trial
time
cheese
sink.
builds. Yeah, I have trial cheese builds where I just
Yeah.
I normally didn't run Cyclone Strike on my monk, but I ran it for trials because it helped me progress higher in the trials, so I didn't have to do it as much. And I was just
Well,
kind of like,
a popular thing on the wizard in the wizard forums and stuff, and like in the community, because the wizards have a really active community, and a lot of us have run demon hunters. Like we've all got demon. I don't have one because I'm stupid, but everyone
You're a
else,
purist.
yeah, but everyone else is running demon hunters to like use their M6 to get their rift keys to start at 37, 38, 39, and then they'll jump on their wizards and use them. So it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of silly. It's just one of those things where it's not completely broken, but it would be nice if Blizzard did something a little more to it. But I mean, I
well, it's
feel like they're
even
gonna
with
look at it.
leveling your legendary gems, you can do the same thing.
Yeah,
Where I know people that are doing that, where they have a demon hunter that they specifically use to only
to
run
level
higher
their
level
gems.
greater rifts. Yeah, so
Hmm.
they level their gems, then they throw it on the character they want to, so a character that might not even be able to do a 26 or something like that, but they have level 30 something gems because
Exactly.
they've used another class in order to stack them up.
Right. Which I mean, again, for clarification purposes, I don't think either of us are calling for a nerf to demon hunters, but it would just be nice
No,
for
no, no.
it to be more reliable for everybody else.
Yeah.
It's I like as a wizard, we're one of the stronger classes right now too. I couldn't imagine being like a barbarian and trying to get greater rift keys. I would murder myself. I know my brother who mains a barbarian. He doesn't even want to bother with it.
Yeah, that's actually the buddy who I play with who has a barbarian. He's just whenever I say I'm doing greater rifts, he's like, I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
He got his gems to 25, and then he's kind of just had no interest in it.
yep. Yeah, yeah, I've had that same experience, especially with barbarian players. I had a couple. I mean, Crusaders not so much because they still have some pretty reliable builds for higher, realm of trials or whatever. But monks, barbarians, really demon hunters and wizards are the best, and even wizards are way subpar compared to demon hunters.
And the highest times overall aren't that different now, but those are people who are probably using keys and gems they got with their demon hunters, and then they find a perfect spawn with
Yeah.
their barbarian or crusader and take advantage of
Well,
it.
and the better is not just looking at the high; you look at the averages. Like I was telling my
Yeah.
friend last night, because he was trying to tell me that the Demon Hunter M6 build wasn't as overpowered as everybody says it is, and I go, okay, take the 1,000th ranked hardcore Demon Hunter, and he would end up being pretty much it's like top 25 in every other class. The one so it's like a guy who's 1,000th rank. It's like that's where you can kind of say something's wrong in it, but then everybody goes, well, no, the Barbarian is the best and has the highest Greater Rift clear. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's one guy, doing something. I mean, but it's like if collectively a large majority of, I mean, maybe too is just that there's more demon hunters, and that's kind of the problem is it's only showing the top bit of it, because there could be, I mean, who knows? Maybe there's 100 more demon hunters or something like that that are running, but I mean, I doubt it's that much.
Well,
But
and see, that goes back to what I was talking about too, though, because the same problem happens for every other class because it gets to a point to where the only people that are pushing are people with unities, and it's just like I'm waiting on that one thing, or I just should roll a demon hunter, but I'd still be waiting on that one unity. It's just
yeah.
it's Diablo is a game of RNG, and that's to be expected, but I feel like it really needs to be looked at, especially like. If we can't directly farm a specific item, then a specific item shouldn't be key for us reaching greater rifts across the board.
Well,
It's
and I don't think that demon hunters even with Unity it's not because like you were saying as you get higher up and things just one shot you anyway. It's kind of
yeah,
almost like you get to a point where the Unity doesn't even do anything for you after that point,
yeah,
and it's kind
yeah.
of like and that's probably I would say because demon hunters might be one of the more fragile classes. I mean, well, the guy who ended up completing and being the highest demon hunter, he had 3 million toughness, but he was using a perma smokescreen build basically for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's the thing is he didn't even have any defensive stat rolls on his gear at all. He just pretty much was relying off of his cooldown reduction and his resource generation. If any of those two, he had a little lag spike or didn't generate enough discipline or something like that through crit procs, like his character was dead. So
Yeah, I would really like to see them, on a side note, tweak the way Greater Rifts scale too, because I mean, like you said, eventually it becomes to a point where nothing matters. You're going to get hit by something and die. So why even roll toughness? It'd be nice if they change, maybe the AI and the monsters, the way they spawn or whatever. But coming back to the Realm of Trials thing, what if instead of wave after wave after wave of enemy, you had like the Realm of Trials was a dungeon level, like a single dungeon level with a boss at the end near the teleporter with elite packs through it, and however fast you cleared that determined how high up in the Greater Rift you went. Like I feel like
damn.
that would at least make a little more sense for the Realm of Trials. Like a wave of a bunch of white mobs doesn't really dictate, a Greater Rift 32 that's filled with, Exarch elite packs.
Yeah, I'd even like if they took greater rifts. I mean, this is a complete off the wall thing, but to put an actual cap on them, and what it is that so say like 40 was the highest that the cap was, then it's a matter of actually just doing that one as fast as you can because
Yeah.
there's the issues too is you could have a guy that did a 39 rift in 2 minutes, and you could have a guy that did a 40 rift in 14 minutes 59 seconds, and technically the 1459 is ranked higher. But
Yes.
looking at those two numbers, you would say that well, the guy that cleared the one in 2 minutes, one rift below, is probably did it a lot faster and had a lot better gear. And I mean, granted, yeah, he might be able to do that, but it could have been some sort of luck things and all this other stuff. But it's like I kind of feel like it's just like the same thing with T6. Like if say T6 was greater rifts and people were trying to clear them as fast, I mean, you'd have these like where people trying to get down to like a minute and 30 seconds and doing whatever they could to shave off that 1 second or something else for it. And it's like then maybe it's kind of a different style of it as opposed to just keep going until you're hitting this brick wall and then you just get lucky on it. Whereas I would feel if they put a limit to it, you're actually trying to develop your gear because you're already overpowering it. And it's a matter of like, being very selective on what you are and like, don't go down the wrong hallway or something else, whatever it is, or like you're clearing perfectly with the guys and pulling them in just right and being in the right locations. But that would involve like set greater rifts in order to have something that would be like along those levels because
Yeah, and see the problem with that is there'd be people exploiting it or finding, then it'd become just memorizing the rift, which isn't bad, I guess, necessarily, but I don't know. I kind of like the fact that it is RNG, even if it is kind of cheesy sometimes.
yeah.
So what if your greater rifts? I mean, you guys got a lot of concepts and ideas for it. I mean, like it took the average of your last five, and that was the key you got, or something. The highest you completed, and that way you could kind of move it up over time or something. I mean, that's almost like how you get. That's like how they determine player ratings in chess and StarCraft and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like almost. Yeah. Exactly. Actually, a lot like StarCraft's like rating system. Like what league you're in or whatever. That would be a really interesting way to do it too. just to kind of like, it's not really a tell of like the rift or the realm you just did, but more your overall progress as a character and what you've done. Because again, like, you know, the idea of rifts and greater rifts from a, forgive me, but lore standpoint is that, you know, you're training for whatever is coming, but at some point it becomes completely trivial to be running a trial for something you've done 200 times.
Well, one
You
other
said
thing
lore.
too to change, like I would think, is to make greater rifts like the same way they are with RNG, and that's for like self progression, I guess, to go through. But say you want to be competitive on it, so say you wanted to do the the monk solo leaderboards. What it would do is you would this is kind of like a PvEvP type system or whatever, and you would have a monk would queue, and then if there's another monk that queued at the same time, it queues them together. It creates an equal rift between the two, and
Oh,
then
and they compete.
each one clears the same one, and then so you can then they could do like a rating system, which whatever would be either like a WoW Arena point system or Hearthstone or StarCraft or whatever it is. So it's kind of like you actually win someone against someone because it's under equal playing grounds. Because the way that I compare it to is like the Greater Rifts is it's kind of like you're playing baseball, but one team plays on their field for whenever they're batting, and then another team plays on their field when they're batting. And it's like you don't do that, and that's kind of what Greater Rifts are. Is like two people are playing on different fields, but they're playing the same game and they're scoring it. And it's like someone's going to have an advantage and a disadvantage somewhere else,
Right.
and based off of what it is. So that way it would be that's where your leaderboards would be, and that's the competitiveness. But then they would make like Greater Rifts like progressing through and everything is random is just like, hey, I want to challenge myself and just go to like crazy, and they might have for maybe make it solo or something like that. Could just only be like where everything is random or it's groups or it's just for fun that you end up doing that with rifts, and then like they have the PVE, which would or PvEvP, which could be the PvP system or something
Yeah.
like that if you want.
Which that's actually what I've like for all the people that have cried about PvP forever. That's actually exactly what I want. I don't want to jump into a game and fight another player because in a game where you're doing over 1 million damage per second and all this, affixes and stuff adding to it, and you have like maybe 500k health, you're gonna die in literally a tenth of a second of your own damage. It doesn't
Yeah.
make a whole lot of sense to have PvP when it's that discombobulated, but to have a set rift that people run through against each other, almost like you wouldn't have to screen share with each other, but almost like if you could see both people playing at the same. I mean, just imagine
You'd
you're
have like
watching
a ghost. You
BlizzCon.
have like a ghost character that would run with you on it or
Right,
something.
exactly. Yeah, that just shows them, or even not even that so much is like you're watching if you watch any like live event and you're actually watching two monks go through the exact same rift but not seeing each other go through them, and you're watching both of them how they play. Like you're gonna start seeing like some really really cool play styles and some interesting things in the way people do things differently, and it'd be a really cool way to compete with people too. But it's just a matter of if that's even on the radar or something they're looking at. But
Yeah.
as far as the realm of trials thing go, I completely agree. I really feel like it's not that it's a bad idea or that it needs to be completely removed from the game, but it should be an optional thing in the game to push your level, not something you have to do every time you want to run a Greater Rift. Like, let the Realm of Trials drop, that's totally great. But let me turn that in straight to Urshi for a Greater Rift key of, 32, 33, or whatever I've completed, and not make me go through the realm to go to 27, then level up to 29, then to 31, then to 33. Like, let me skip that hour of grinding if you know I can already do it.
But that hour of grinding gets you legendary items, but you get those anyway, I
I don't
suppose.
need any items. Like that's the problem I'm at right now is I have there's literally almost nothing I mean, it's kind of like where you get to the point where you like almost finding gear is less efficient than just pushing your greater rifts because you can kind of find a little bit of gear there. Like the stats that I could mix up on my gear are I mean, I need a furnace or a unity. That's what I need. Like that's literally the only two things that would be like big upgrades for me, and they wouldn't be like astronomical. They'd be really great upgrades, but they wouldn't be like I would still like I don't know. I would still be kind of testing to see if that would be better than what I'm using. So I don't know. I just at a certain point you reach a level where there's not a whole lot of upgrades you can get, and it would be fine if I could just use my gear and run straight into a greater rift, but I'm still having to do these trials. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I just hope in the future they look at it and find a way so that we can just choose to forego the Realm of Trials process and even maybe start at a lower rift. Maybe if we've completed 35, only let us start at 31 or 32. It just feels like a trivial step in the process of greater rifts.
But as we were explaining earlier, right at the start of this, several hours ago, if you can't get screwed by RNG, it's not a Diablo
This
game.
is true. This is true.
Yeah.
But RNG as much of a big part of Diablo as it is, if you're doing a competitive type of gameplay, the amount of RNG that can affect that gameplay should be minimized substantially, at least as much as you possibly can. And this is something that wouldn't be even a hard fix for them to do, and something that would, I mean, it's a huge thing that, I mean, nobody's going, oh, I love Realm of Trials, man. I love doing that. That's my favorite part of like nobody. You don't get any gear, you don't get
Said
any experience, you
nobody
don't get any
ever.
gold. Yeah, no one is stoked to do a Realm of Trial. It's always a process just to get to the next process. It's a waste of time.
I'm sure they'll get right on that.
Yeah.
One thing you guys said earlier I thought was a cool idea is if you could be, instead of just going to the next rift, if you could be timed on a certain rift. So like what if there were leaderboards for like every 10 rifts, I mean every 10 great levels of Greater Rift, and that was just the highest time. You know, so
Yeah, so
anybody
like
in the world could
fastest
try to
Greater
do,
Rift 30 or something.
yeah, the fastest Greater Rift 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. You know, I mean every 5, whatever. They could just, you know, every 12, who cares? You know, what, just a number.
Right.
But that would be fun. You know, people will be building these like super fast movement characters,
Oh,
and
yeah.
what can you try to just
Yeah.
hope to get a bunch of conduit shrines, and you know, suddenly it's like someone shaved 3 seconds off the record on Greater Rift 20. It's like someone did it in 2:14. Oh my god, I got to try it again.
Yeah,
'Cause people
exactly.
love that trying to finish all the acts in an hour
Well, and kind
thing,
of in a way
which
is
gives
it
you nothing but one stupid achievement.
it
You know?
it can even make, you know, I mean, well, I mean the amount of gear that you might have to go crazy on that, but it's also too is that it might actually help kind of more of a casual people to have a bit better competitiveness or something like that
It's
too,
something to go after, yeah.
because I mean, most people when they look at it, they see on the top and they're like, "Oh, guy's on 38, and I'm at 20 or something like that." They're like, "I'm not even on this list. This is great. You know, good job." You know, but if someone's like, "Oh, well, who's the fastest that's around them or something else?" You know, or like, "What's the fastest 20 that they've done?" Then they can sit there and look at it and be like, "Oh, this guy did it in, you know, I don't know, it was like 10 minutes and 29 seconds, and I did it in 11 minutes and 15. Maybe I can try and take an extra, 45 to a minute, off of it so that I can, pull ahead of that one guy." It's kind of like if you look at yourself more as like what's near you as competition as opposed to who's at the top, which is always what everyone seems to be focusing on, then, it might open up. And that's kind of why even doing like the PvEvP is that you'd be facing someone who would be by matchmaking system would be of equal skill and on the same clearing level as you. So it should be pretty darn close when you're
Yeah.
going through the whole thing. So when you get to the end, it's like you're pounding, it tells you that the guy summoned the Rift Guardian, and then 10 seconds later, you summon the Rift Guardian, and you're pushing there and you're punching the things and whatever. And you can see the numbers clicking down or whatever it is. It shows the Rift Guardian's life bar, draining down, and you're getting to a point, and then your flying dragon or whatever it is happens to proc at the end of it or something, and you get that little bit of extra DPS to then finally get ahead and beat him, or something like that. That's just an instant excitement that you end up getting. Whereas kind
Hmm.
of like Greater Rifts, you finish them unless you're finishing them within 1 second of yourself. Or you finish a rift in 14 minutes 59 seconds. That's where it gets intense. But if you blow out a rift with 4 minutes left, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, next level.
Yeah.
There's no you're just like, okay, that's it, and then you just move on to the next one. There's no it'd be nice if each one that you do almost has this kind of sense of accomplishment to it.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say too that if you did the lower tiers, the 10, the 20, the 30, the 40, and the times, that would also open up a lot of builds. I mean, the biggest problem you have right now with Greater Rifts is that the higher Greater Rifts you go, the more bottlenecks and the less builds are viable.
Yep.
And especially the less gear is viable. But if you're trying to run a fast time on level 10, Firebirds is probably not going to be the most efficient there because you're already going to one shot just about everything. You want to maximize,
Same with Marauders, even. It's
right,
like that.
exactly. The arm guards that gives you faster run speed when you break objects. You're going to want to stack those on there. There's a bunch of different pieces you're going to want to put together. The Krelm's belt and stuff like that. So it would be really really cool to see that because you'd have a different thing to gear. Like I would have something else to do right now besides farm a Unity. That's all. That's the whole point of everything. I think that I'm saying is that I'm having a lot of fun with this season so far, but I'm frustrated at the fact that I can't do anything besides find a Unity or a Furnace to do anything more. It really feels like I'm kind of just. I really almost have to roll a new character because I would just roll another wizard and build up another Firebird set, which just feels kind of trivial. So it would be cool to have something else that I could do that's a little lower level to just kind of speed farm stuff.
We gotta end now
Yeah.
because magic has happened. Any final thoughts, guys?
I want to see what's going to go on at BlizzCon because I have a feeling they've got something that's probably up their sleeve what they're going to announce. I don't know if it's going to be the next content patch or if they're going to kind of say something of bigger changes that are coming around. I mean, I would hope that there would be something that they would kind of reveal into saying, hey, we've got this coming up or this is coming up next down the pipeline or PvP or whatever it is. I mean, you can dream on kind of anything of what you want it to be, but I I'm hoping that there's, it's been good, positive changes with a few little, with the gambling and how the Rift trial stuff or whatever it is. But for the most part, I mean, the changes that they've been making on this have been very good progress, compared to even towards vanilla. And it's been almost, I would even say, at a more aggressive pace than it had been during vanilla as well. So I'm kind of just looking forward really until what's coming up at BlizzCon and just to see if there is anything or whatever that they're going to announce there, any new information.
Yeah, I pretty much the same thing. With everything that we've said tonight, I still really have enjoyed like this season a ton. I'm still playing it a bunch, as much as I can possibly get in the time to do. They've done such a great job with this expansion in this season so far, and I really feel like the team, like the Diablo 3 team right now, has a better grasp on what the community wants and what the players want. And the more seasons happen, the more seasons we do, the more ideas they get, the better it's going to flesh itself out. So this is the first season. It's been a lot of fun so far, but I'm really excited to see what changes are going to come in the second season, the third season, the fourth season, and also at BlizzCon in the hopes for a new Diablo 3 expansion and where the story is going to go. Because as much as I love the gameplay and I love the competing in the Greater Rift or whatever, like the story really hooks me in with Diablo. So I'm really, really anxious to see where everything goes and really excited for it.
No, that's about it.
You just wish monks didn't die so much.
I wish I could have found a Unity. That's all. But then I would have just died at a higher rift. But at least I would have felt a bit more accomplished.
My final.
Now your Demon Hunter will find like half a dozen of them probably.
Yeah.
My final thought's the same. I need a Unity. So my final thought is sending out to the Diablo gods, please. Tonight,
I'm going to
I want a
pray
Unity.
to the RN Jesus. Please.
I've got
give
one,
me
and it's a great
Unities.
roll. I need a second. Just to say a crappy one. I'll throw it to my follower. I'm good. Just give me a crappy one. I don't care. It can roll strength for all I care. Just give it to me.
You could trade for it. Oh wait.
Yeah, if only.
If only. Okay, guys, you've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at DiabloLinkGamers.com. Thanks for your time, guys. And Diablo 3 podcast and moo.
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 Moo moo. Moo moo.